Rob Tebbutt here, delighted to be joined by Sampson Lewkowicz. We're here in sunny Acapulco. Samson, pleasure to sit down with you. I've managed to catch you just before you go back home, so thank you very much for doing the interview. How's your week been in Mexico?
No, the week was excellent. I love so much this convention because most of the time you get something special, especially for your fighters. So it was great. It was great.
Now, one of the things that I was quite surprised about this week was that sometimes during the ratings and the mandatories, Mauricio Sulaiman, of course your friend from the WBC, would say, is there anybody from this company or that company? And everybody looks around and sometimes there's nobody here. How important is it that a manager, advisor, promoter comes to these events for their fighters?
Well, put it this way. Whoever doesn't come to the convention is because he wants to save money or he doesn't care much for the fighter, or it's only one number. You know, for me, every one of my fighters is like my own child. That is the difference. I love boxing. I'm in love with boxing. And I respect boxing, I respect the fighters. Some people, you know, some promoters, it's only a business or try to do a business, you know. You say in America, every day a sucker win, you know, a sucker come and born in boxing because it's promoters that they have a lot of money that you try to be a promoter because boxing is very special not only for fighters, management and promoters. It's something special for the human being, put it that way, because it's a very fun sport. You know many people from the bottom to the top, including presidents.
You mentioned this love for boxing, and you can see that you love boxing. You only have to listen to the ratings or the mandatories to know how much you love the sport. Where does that come from, Samson? Where did your love for boxing start?
Well, my father, may rest in peace, used to take me in Uruguay, which is my country, to fights. And sometimes we stay to 3, 4 o'clock watching TV in black and white, fighters of, you know, fights in America at that time. And beside that, I was an amateur boxer. I was undefeated in 2 fights, and I got knocked out in one that it was enough for me. I said, I'm too beautiful, too nice. You know, I used to be a young man, nice looking, green eyes, what I need boxing for. So I decided to give up, but always what I couldn't get, I want to give it to all my fighters, that to be a world champion.
Now, you mentioned early life in Uruguay, kind of finding boxing at a young age. Now, of course, Lewkowicz is not a Uruguayan surname. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how your parents ended up in Uruguay?
Well, my parents in the Second War, my father came from Poland, my mother from Hungary. And, you know, he met in Uruguay and he built his family. Most of the family of my father, as well as my mother, he was in the Holocaust. And, well, only few survived. You know, I was in Poland, and after I went to the Holocaust Museum, when I see beautiful trees, that he saw what happened, but you don't see no one bird. But you go outside of that, you see birds again. So, I mean, it was, I stayed like 2-3 days that I couldn't talk, because part of my family was there. You know, but that is something that, you know, it make me feel so, you know, bad how people can be so cruel, as well as what happened now with Russia and Ukraine. It's so cruel what happened. I was in Ukraine. We was 3 years or 4 years ago. We was in Ukraine with the WBC at a convention. All that is destroyed. It's horrible. Sometimes you know, I don't want to be politically or talk politically. I'm a boxer, but I feel so bad for what's going on in the world, and there's no way to stop it. You know, I remember in few countries that you kill whoever do something wrong for the country, because there's no winning on Russia. You cannot win, and Ukraine you cannot win. Both, if we're losing family, friends, and money to survive. But let's talk about boxing now, please.
Let's talk about the boxing indeed. How did you become, so you went from a good-looking, handsome amateur boxer into a manager, advisor, promoter, and a talent spotter. That's probably what you're most well known for. How did you get into that world of spotting talent and advising fighters?
Well, I came to America in 1972. I met my wife 3 months after, 2 months when I was in New York. It's a wonderful story, but unbelievable story. But anyway, I meet her, and she's my wife for the past 49 years. So I can tell you I'm a good man, because I still kiss him every time. My wife, she's something very special for me. So when you see a man that is 49 years married, it must be good. Must be at least a nice human being, put it that way.
Particularly in boxing as well, because boxing, you're traveling, you're different time zones, you're very busy.
My wife travels with me all the way. Wherever I go, she's with me. She's involved in a way, advice sometimes. We are a good team.
You've found fights from all across the globe. You found big fighters, small fighters, punchers, movers. What do you look for in a fight? Is there a specific way that you look for a fighter? Is there a method to how you spot talent?
Well, before I answer you that question, I will tell you how I come to be a promoter. I used to work I did many work in America. You can go to samsonboxing.com. You have my bio. So I was working in Fifth Avenue and 57th Street, Manhattan. That is the match. And I used to have a client, and it was Don Jose Sulaiman. He used to come with Mauricio. He used to be about 8 or 9 years old. And I was playing with them, with the people. I was a manager there. My salesman is sold merchandise to him, that it was electronics and antiques. And I used to, play with Mauricio, And one day, after several years, he told me, you know what? This electronic store, it will not give you the pleasure, like I know after talking many times with me, like boxing. You need to drop this business and go to boxing. So that I will help you. So this is what I did. I drop it, I follow Don Jose Sulaiman, and he was, in a way, my mentor.
It's interesting. We're going to come on and talk about Mauricio later on. We've had a very interesting week with him, as you always do. You have a wonderful relationship, so it's nice to hear that. But about spotting talent, how do you spot talent? We've spotted talent from all over the world, in every shape and form. What do you look for in a fighter?
If I say that, I will lose my job. I cannot. This is a secret. But I did find Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao, he go to Bob Aron. He said, well, I need a Filipino, a small Filipino. He went at that time to Dan King. And he went to the third one. He was, I believe it was Cedric Kushner from South Africa. And nobody wanted. So I used to work as a matchmaker in that time with Murad Muhammad. Matchmaker, but I did everything in the office. I mean, I wore my ass in that time with them. I'm very happy. I passed 2-3 years with them working, and then and I learned so much from him. For me, Murad Muhammad, he was my teacher. And when a lawyer from San Francisco, he called me up because he spoke first with Murad. Murad, you know, yeah, a Filipino. Okay, thank you. I call you back. So he called me up because already started to get my reputation. And he called me up. He said, you know, have this Filipino, he'd be a world champion. I said, okay, let me see. Send me a video. And that time he used the VHS, remember? He sent me a VHS, and he was fighting, and the guy fell out. I said, what's going on? I put it in slow motion, and I see that left hook. I say, this is the one. So now he was number 7 in the IBF, and the rating in 122 pounds, and which is junior super bantamweight or junior featherweight. I said, Murad, there's something special. He said, why? I went and I learned a lot about Philippines. There's no way besides Muay Thai is boxing. There's no football, there's no baseball, there's no basketball, there's nothing. So you must have somebody. But every time that we bring a Filipino, we bring it a week before. This guy is in America for 1 month. So we're fighting, which I bring to Morato Castillejo, that he fought Oscar de la Hoya. Oscar de la Hoya, he didn't have his company yet. So I said, you know what? Let's put it 8 rounds and see what happens. So this is what we did. A friend of mine, he called me up, said, the opponent of Luwawa, he got hurt. So I said, okay, please don't say to nobody. I went to the IBF. In that time, it was Mariam Muhammad, the president. I said, you need to go through the list to be a mandatory. In that time, it was not the technology that we have now in 2000. So I sent a fax to 1. I sent a fax to number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. Nobody in 2 weeks he was available. So I got the mandatory. And when we went to the fight, everybody had like 8-1. And in the press conference, I say that he will knock him out in 6. And everybody look at me. Ludi Vela was the promoter. He said, I never put a fight so bad, because a small Filipino fighter with his great champion, Luwawa, but it's the last moment replacement. And he was fighting in Mexican southpaw, which it was exactly the same. Then after I talk, people start to know me. It come the Filipinos to see him, and the money changed. And the casino, MGM, stopped. He didn't sell no more, because from 8 it went to 3 or 4-1, and it continued coming Filipinos to back him up. And in the 61 by KO. So then I changed my life with that. Then Golden Boy, I started to work with Golden Boy as a matchmaker and advisor. I can say publicly that I help a lot Richie Schaefer. I remember we sit in Spain and we stay hours. I explain the business because he was a banker. And today, he's a great promoter. So I believe that I give it some. Then I split because Manny Pacquiao, he was, and he is a very intelligent person. He saw what's going on, and he told me, I want you to work with me. But something I'm missing that would be good for England to know. I did, as a matchmaker, I did all the medicals for him. So I took him to have a blood taken out. In that time, it was HIV, and it was not hepatitis, HIV and something else to pass. And not like now, you have too many tests. So I went and said, no, I don't want to take blood. If you don't take blood, you're not finding money. So he said, no, don't worry, I'll be next to you. When they put the needles, he faint. Manny faint. I called Murad, this guy faint. I told you he's a Filipino. and I told him, it happens sometimes that people doesn't like. And I say that Manny Pacquiao, most of the time, he didn't want to take a test, not because he's afraid that he find out something in the blood. He's panic every time somebody take blood from him. So anyway, I take him back to the hotel, and the next day we have this 2 days after the weigh-in and the fight, and that is the story of Manny Pacquiao. And then I continue working with Golden Boy for several years. I bring Walter Matisse. I bring the brother of Matisse that come as Lucas Matisse, that Jorge Barrios versus Freitas, that it was the fight of the decade. I mean, so then, you get people to respect you. Besides Maravilla Martinez, David Benavidez, Michelle Rivera, Fundora, Sebastian Fundora. I mean, in a good time that already getting, mature, that is Javier Fortuna, Jason Rosario, that the win fight that is supposed to lose fights. So I got the respect of the industry, put it that way.
Actually, you knew Manny Pacquiao would be a world champion. Did you ever imagine that he could go as far as he did, win a world title like literally?
Yes.
Really?
Definitely. From day one after that fight, I continued working, and I told him, Murad, let's put it again, against a Colombian, I forgot his name now, which was absolutely no money almost. But it was an opening for them, that it was the fight with Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis. And it was in the undercard. And then he started to, I worked with them till they fought Barrera. And after that, I said, no more. Let me go by my own. Because why would I give all my knowledge to know how to pick the right fighter to others that they get wealthy and I get the salary? So my ambition was to be promoted. But I stayed almost 10 years as a matchmaker. I didn't want to go as a promoter with the knowledge of everything. Like an example, Bob Aron, he have a major promotion company that they have a matchmaker, second matchmaker, and third matchmaker. In my company, I am the matchmaker. Because I still a promoter, but I know what I'm doing as a matchmaker. And I do great shows. Not only in America, worldwide. From Philippines, I did shows to Colombia, to Mexico. Mexico with Eddie Reynoso, mi amigo. In Guadalajara. In Uruguay, that I do next week. Argentina, Spain. I mean, I this is my life. In Poland, my father country. I mean, I work many years with Frank Warrens. I make the fight with Mike Tyson and
Francis?
No.
Summer race?
It was in Kentucky. If you see that fight, anybody can check. The name is. He fought after he fought Mike Tyson. That he beat Mike Tyson.
Right. prize?
No.
Danny Williams?
Danny Williams. If you see that fight, Danny Williams, when he finished the fight, he say, "Thank you, Sampson." Doesn't say, "Thank you, Frank." Doesn't say, "Thank you, whoever." He say, "Thank you, Sampson." That it was good enough for me. Because I switched the fight on the last time, on the last minute. It was an issue that Mike Tyson, he didn't want to sign the contract. I said, okay, so, I need to switch. I cannot give an easy one. And I did with Frank.
How's your relationship with Frank now?
Well, then it was not so nice, but I have people over there that they hate me, but this is boxing. Regardless what you do, people hate. But I believe I'm the only promoter that I deal with Bob Arum, with Golden Boy, with Ludi Bella in America. I worked one time, a couple of times with Eddie Hearn, and I did what I supposed to do correctly. So I believe that I have open doors wherever I go. I never fight. I never say nothing really negative against any promoter. I try to be nice and mind my own business. With Dan King too, I would.
Those are some of the fighters you've worked with in the past. Now, a couple of fighters that you work with now, we've heard their names this week. They're in big fights themselves. One of them is sat just out there. You can see him if you look up. Sebastian Fundora. How did you end up getting to work with Sebastian Fundora? And what an interesting young man and a great fighter that he could potentially be.
Well, Freddy Fundora, he was after me for two brothers. One brother, at that time, he was 11-0, 14-0, many fights. Big too, like 6'4", and Sebastian, that he was 6'6". So he offered me the two fighters. I told him, he went after me like month. He said, I will sign with you, doesn't matter what, but I will convince you. And I told him, I see something on your younger one, that he was Sebastian, that he was 4-0. The only thing is, I believe he's fragile, too tall. But I will never say no. Let me try it. So I have in Fox TV, and he fought Victor Tony. He was 5-0 with 5 KOs, and he was 5-0 with 4, and Sebastian was 4-4 with 4. I put it in a test, and he beat it every round. Then I took it to Uruguay and to Argentina. And he fought twice, 6 rounds, and he went the distance with good opposition. I said, okay, now you'll be a champion. And this is what he was. I continue giving every fight that all my fighters is picked by me. I don't have a matchmaker. So this is how you create, because you need to trust yourself. Now, when it's a mandatory, you need to fight. So there's no protection. So this, is whatever that night you fight to do. If it's sometime I say, look, it's a tough fight, but the money is good and good for your family, you need to take the fight. But no fighter that will say no, regardless knowing is losing the fight, or you have a little bit of chance, but if the money is right, he will take it. But no one is afraid. I never saw any boxer that is say that is scared of the opponent. And I had the most respect, because thanks to these guys, I have a suit, nice suit and tight, and I don't sweat and I don't bleed. But this boxer is sweat and bleed every day. So I have the most respect for him, worldwide.
You mentioned that about Sebastian Fundora. That's one of the things I wanted to speak to you about. I mean, he boxed Sergio Garcia, who's a good fighter, very good fighter. We know from him over in the UK, very solid European level guy. Then he boxed Erickson Lubin in maybe the fight of the year so far. How important is it to test those fighters on the way up? Because with Fundora, he's young, he's marketable. You don't have to put him in these hard fights, but he's been in those fights. He got knocked down against Lubin. You learn from that. How important is it to find those things out?
He didn't get knocked down. He put a knee. The reason he was because he was hurt, and he needed 8 seconds to recover and fight again. That is experience that you don't learn only in the ring. You learn with a good trainer like his father and the gym. But going to Fundora, if I give it an easy fight, he doesn't want it. Not the father and not the son, because people doesn't understand. When you're giving easy fights, it doesn't learn and doesn't get pain. So when you get a real good guy, a good opposition, most likely will lose. Now I have a mandatory. I say on that mandatory, I say that it was not available, Tony Harrison. That's correct? Now, when I say that, it's because I know that it was not available for whatever reason. We don't want to talk about money or anything else, but it was not available. And when this lady comes, that is a fighter of the trainer, say this available, I can tell you that I don't believe it will be available. Again, I know about my guy is available because Sebastian, he will fight anybody. However, if it's not available, I will talk to Benjamin Shalom, a boxer, right? And I will ask for only one fighter, Ryan Smith. That is the next available contender.
So we're running low on time here, so I'm going to try and get through here. Now, one of the opponents one of the fighters I want to talk about is David Benavidez. David Benavidez and Caleb Plant. That's the fight that we're looking at. The winner of that will become mandatory challenger for Canelo-Alvarez. That's a fight that really excites me as a boxing fan. It has everything you want. It has a clash of styles, and they don't seem to like each other very much, Sampson, do they?
Definitely doesn't like. It's something personal, and I hope so. In UK, people stay long with a good beer because it'd be a great fight.
Where does that dislike between them come from?
It was issue in the gym for a long time, and one day he told me, Sampson, I want to fight Benavidez. Either one, he was not the champion. It's too early. And he said he's afraid. But it was my decision because it was too early. Now each one he will make a decent money. So that is the way you keep your fighters in a good position to make more money in the business.
Final one on David Benavidez. We'll see him, seems to me that if he beats Caleb Plant and is mandatory for Canelo-Alvarez, that's a huge fight. We've seen Canelo recently say he doesn't want to fight Mexicans. Could we see that? Could we see Canelo-Benavidez? And if we can, how big of a fight is that?
First of all, even though you have a blood Mexican, the mother is from Ecuador, the same like my wife. Mother is only one, father it can be many. So it's Ecuadorian, Mexican. So I have no excuse.
How big of a fight is that?
Very big. Not only here, worldwide.
And how does that fight end?
I don't know if it happened.
You don't think it happened?
No. Because Eddie Reynoso, that is my friend, I don't believe he wanted to throw him to the wolf or to a monster, like Mike Tyson saying.
Final question from me, Sampson, before we wrap things up. We've seen you go toe-to-toe with your old friend Mauricio Sulaiman this week. You mentioned there about knowing him since he was a small child. What a relationship you guys have. It's been great to see.
Because the father used to do that to me. So he continued the tradition. And I love him. I love his father. I love his family. I love Mauricio. But it doesn't give me nothing if I don't earn. I never take advantage of my friendship, the friendship that I have. Others, he take advantage, exactly like the father. I can mention him, but better not. But it's the guy that he knows who it is, especially one guy. But anyway,
Sampson,
it's what it
thank you
is.
so much for sitting down and speaking to me. Your lovely wife is over there waiting for you, so safe travels, and hopefully we see you again soon.
Thank you very much. I hope so. See you soon in UK.